like Groundhog Day for the Iranians, except if the groundhogs were Patriot missiles. U.S. Central Command announcing that American forces began a new wave of strikes against Iran at 2 p.m., marking the fifth consecutive day of operations aimed at degrading Iran's military capabilities. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt back at the briefing room podium. She says the Iranians want to make a deal because of all the devastating blows.
Iran very much continues to talk to the United States of America and express that they want to make a deal with us because they are suffering devastating blows. And President Trump is not going to sit by and allow these active acts of terrorism to take place in the Strait without ensuring Iran pays consequences for that, and that's what we are witnessing right now.
All right, this comes as nearly half of House Democrats voted to end all U.S. aid to Israel yesterday. Naturally, the Hamas caucus was doing their happy dance.
What it says is that the majority of the Democratic Party is most in touch with the American electorate writ large.
A majority of Democrats in this building refused to vote to send billions of dollars in weapons to the Israeli military. That sends a strong message.
There are many members who took votes that I was surprised to take that yes vote today, and I am proud of that.
Harold, is this a win for the socialist wing? And do you think it's worrisome for the president on Iran that they are so dead set against Israel?
Well, not all Democrats are. I would not have voted that way if I were in the Congress. I think we're conflating two things. I think an honest conversation can be had about our policy or Israeli policies towards Lebanon and, for that matter, towards Palestinians, not towards them, but towards Palestinians. But at the same time, blocking military aid to Israel is foolish. Perhaps they would argue that's the only way they would have leverage. But I do think two conversations can take place at once, and you can support Israel. Let me get to Iran for one moment. We've been talking about this, and I listened to young Miss Leavitt. Congratulations to her and her family. But I've urged President Trump to stop talking so much and to stop telling the American people that the Iranians want a deal. If indeed they want a deal, this is a weird way to show it. We've heard the president now for weeks tell us that they've been hungry, the Iranians that is, that we're going to blow the daylights out of them if they don't do X, Y, and Z. We're finally actually acting on some of those things, which I'm happy. I support what the president's doing here. But they do need to stop pretending. And perhaps in the president's address this evening, he will give us some sense of that. Finally, objectives, strategy, and end game. If my pal Greg was here, he'd say, well, you can't tell everybody when you're going to end a war. I would agree. In that same vein, we should tell, and everyone around the table says this at some level, the president should stop saying every time he's going to do something and when he's going to do it. What is our objective right now? I think the objective, Kennedy, is to open the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians have said in the last 24 hours that if we can attack their infrastructure, like the president warned last night, that they would attack our allies in the region, and they would ask the Houthis to block other choke points around the globe, blocking other commercial shipping. The president should address some of this tonight. I'm for what he's doing right now, but if our objective is we think we can just keep saying the same old things while doing something different militarily, I think we're going to get the same old answer. The Iranians know we're heading into an election cycle. They know this president is tired of this war, that his supporters are tired of this war. But there's one problem. The guys on the other side aren't tired. So we have to be honest with the American people. And if we need more military action to achieve our goals, lay out for the American people what the objective is, and let's get to it.
All right, but more military action obviously means more U.S. service members in harm's way. That's a risky proposition for this president.
Well, he said he didn't think the country had the stomach for major ground operations, and it probably doesn't, but that doesn't mean you rule it out. I still think he's keeping all options on the table, and if there needs to be a ground assault on the coastline or some of these islands, that's being considered, because right now, whatever's happening in the Strait can't stand. You cannot let them control the Strait. That's where this game is now. So what it looks like they're doing is an intense air campaign to soften up that coastline and push the enemy forces back so they can't launch drones into the Gulf. You may be able to just do that in the air. You might have to send some people into those islands. I don't know. But you're right. If you do bridge and power plant day, as much as a lot of people want to see that, you could have the Iranians just throw everything they've got at the Arab Gulf nations' oil infrastructure and have the Houthis shut down the Red Sea. So there is a little bit like, do you want this to escalate and have oil go to 120? Maybe that's a risk worth taking. But right now, I think he could do it without bridge and power plant day. And if he can't, you might have to do bridge and power plant day. Right now, we're doing 2-a-days. Remember football?
Yep.
You practice in the morning, practice in the afternoon. Right now, I mean, this is a heavy attack on these targets right now. And we're doing it at daytime.
Broad daylight.
These are and you got the blockade going, and we talked about the land blockade. So this is a pretty tough squeeze, but the ceasefire's over. I mean, he has to finish this.
You think he should stop talking so much, though? That's Trump? Yeah. I know you can't say it. I'll say I think he should.
I think he likes to talk. He's going to keep talking, and he's going to manifest it by talking.
Wow, the secret.
That is the secret.
We should all be doing some dream building here. You're absolutely right. So what does a win look like at this point in, if you want to call it an incursion, a war, whatever you want to call it, between that and the midterms? What does a win look like?
Well, I think he needs to define that, right, and to reinforce it over and over again. I do believe that still the highest level of trust in any institution in the United States is in the U.S. military, and President Trump has great trust in the U.S. military. Our technology is obviously superior. He gave peace a chance, and he let them try to come to the table. I think that when Caroline Leavitt said that they are talking to us every day, they're devastated. They want, okay, well, if there then is a small group that is preventing that from happening, what are we doing to deal with that small group? And they probably can't tell us directly, but as Jesse's gesture just showed, that's probably what should happen. On the vote about Israel, I would note this, that AOC is running laps saying like, this is so great. It's absolutely terrible. And I would love to see if the Democrats who just voted for $3 billion in aid to not be sent to Israel, would they vote to make sure that that fraud in Minneapolis goes away? Because that's more than $3 billion. Is it a deficit thing? No, it's not a deficit thing. It's an Israel thing. And that has become the litmus test of all of them. However, 16 of 18 Democrats who have races that they're concerned about, that they want to be respectful of their constituents' wishes, they voted against it. So if you actually want to be elected in America in a way that is more of a purple area, then you are going to be for Israel still. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a problem we should address.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is the thing. They're intentionally tearing their party apart with that single issue. Your thoughts, Tyrus?
Well,
who was pushing the president into more action here?
Oh, Iran is. They're the ones that's doing it. He's giving them every chance to surrender and figure out, and not just that, but to give them a path to fix things, to give them a path to rebuild, to have infrastructure, and they just don't get it. But I'm not surprised, because literally the most asinine thing I think I've heard in a long time, and I hear a lot of stuff. I work with Greg. The Democratic Party is most in touch with the American electorate at large. What? You got smoked in the elections because you don't know what touch is, except the wrong way with some of your candidates. They have absolutely no idea. I think, honestly, at this point, America has to take the gloves off. We gotta send a message we're not messing around. Strait of Hormuz? No, it's just Strait of America now. We need to just take it over while they're building those pipelines so it will be obsolete. Push it back, call that little island without New Texas. Just let them know that they need to make, and just keep he's putting a squeeze on them. Just put the squeeze on them to where and then while you're doing that, take the handcuffs off Israel. Let Israel do the voodoo that they do. Enough. Just let them do it. Because at this point, they're not ever going to come to the table with any, it doesn't matter who they send. Their generals have different ideas. The talk is over. It's time to come out swinging.
Maybe they renamed that island Mara Cargo.
Oh, I like Straits of America and New Texas. You think oil, New Texas, and that will get everybody's attention.
We'll get it.
We just need to get it open.
Don't worry, we'll have
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.